Bet you weren't expecting a sequel. About a month ago, I released a video where I talked about Pokemon in the TCG that have never seen a card printed for them, or haven't had a new card printed in quite some time. That video has immediately become outdated, as some of the Pokemon I mentioned have received new cards or have received the first ever card, while the video mainly focused on Pokemon with different forms or Pokemon with gender differences, as there were only a handful of Pokemon that had no cards whatsoever, and they were all Mega Pokemon. I've recently done some digging on different types of cards instead, cards involving the very people that capture and tame these creatures. The trainers and characters of the Pokemon franchise. Whether they are key characters seen throughout the story, different trainer classes, or side characters, you'd be surprised by the amount of characters that do not have cards printed for them, because there are a lot. So in this video we'll be going over all of the underappreciated and forgotten characters over the Pokemon series. I do want to start off by saying that I will be including TCG Pocket this time around, as there are some characters that have cards in that game but not in the physical TCG. Those characters being Lyra, Silver, Dawn, and Leaf. Also, some of the characters in this video do have cards where they are either featured on the art of the card, have their name on the card alongside a Pokemon or another trainer, or are part of a group. If they do not have a standalone card with just their name on it, they will be mentioned in this video. With all that out of the way, let's begin starting with Generation 1, which only has one main missing character in the TCG. That sole character being the Elite Four member, Lorelei. She does have a tag team supporter card featuring both her and Misty, but in terms of having a card just featuring herself, that doesn't exist. In fact, she was done so dirty that the full art of their tag team was only released in Japan. There are a couple of other random characters from Generation 1 that don't have cards, but most of them are side characters. Moving on to Generation 2, there are only a couple of missing characters, two of them being gym leaders, Bugsy and Price. Bugsy has made an appearance on the Orbeetle V character art rares and had a set of trainer Pokemon cards released in the Japanese only set Pokemon Card Versus, but no standalone card has been printed for him, her, I don't know, it's hard to tell. Price has also suffered the same fate, having a set of trainers Pokemon cards released in the exact same set, and was featured on the character art rare for Abomasnow. Other notable Gen 2 characters that don't have cards are the Kimono Girls, Yucine, as well as the female protagonist for Pokemon Crystal, Chris. Ethan and Lyra both have cards, but Chris doesn't. However, the most important character from these games that doesn't have a card printed is Youngster Joey. That's just unacceptable. How could you forget such a vital and impactful character in the game? Generation 3 is where the list of missing characters starts to build up. First off, both protagonists, Brendan and May, don't have cards. May is at least featured on the character art rares for Blaziken V, but Brendan just doesn't have anything. This generation also has quite a few missing gym leaders and Elite Four members, those being Watson, Juan from Pokemon Emerald, as well as Glacier and Drake. There is a Gym Badge Watson card, but that was only released as a gym promo over in Japan, and Glacier and Drake do technically have their own cards, but they are stadium cards, so it doesn't count. However, Juan, just like Brendan, doesn't even have a cameo, he just has nothing. Other characters who don't have cards include the Team Magma and Aqua admins. And before you go typing in the comments, well, actually, yes, I know there are admin cards featuring Tabitha and Courtney, and another featuring Matt and Shelby, but standalone cards for these four characters do not exist. And lastly, a lot of the Emerald Battle Frontier characters don't have cards printed. Annabelle, Spencer, Noland, Tucker, Greta, and Lucy. The only member that does have a card is Brandon. Why only him? I have no idea, maybe he's a fan favourite or something. Up next is Generation 4, and while the female protagonist Dawn has a card in TCG Pocket, the male protagonist Lucas has nothing, unless you want to count the Friends in Sinnoh card. Why does it only seem to be the male protagonists? Only two gym leaders are missing from this generation, those being Maylene and Byron. We have a couple of Team Galactic members accounted for, except for two of the commanders, Jupiter and Saturn. Mars and Sharon are the only two that have seen standalone cards. Even in TCG Pocket, only her and Cyrus were given the attention. Jupiter and Saturn did get their faces slapped on some galactic cards, but no standalone cards have been released for them. I mean, yeah, Mars is hot, but come on. Some of the Battle Frontier members from this generation are also missing: Dahlia, Agenta, and Caitlyn's butler, Darak. Caitlyn herself has seen cards printed, as well as Palmer and Thornton. Another character who has been omitted from the TCG is Mirror. In Generation 4, there are certain parts of the game where you team up with another trainer, those trainers being Cheryl, Riley, Buck, Marley, and Mirror. Mirror is the only one out of the 5 who hasn't seen a card printed. I mean, the area you meet her is technically an optional area, so maybe they just forgot that she existed. Now for Generation 5, which surprisingly has the most characters missing from the TCG. You'd think with Black Bolt and White Flare they'd print almost all the important trainers as well as every Pokemon, but no, the male protagonists Hilbert and Nate are missing, while Hilda and Rosa have their own cards. Seems to be a recurring theme. There are also a few gym leaders missing and one Elite Four member. Cillian has his own card, as well as a card featuring him and his 2 brothers, but those said brothers, Chili and Cress, do not have their own cards. Lenora, Berg, Bryson, Drayden, and Marlon from Black and White 2 are also missing. Bryson has been featured on some tag team cards, but again, no standalone card. And the only missing Elite Four member is Marshall. However, the most surprising exclusion from this generation is actually the champion, Alder. Yes, the champion of the Unova region, at least in the first games, does not have a card printed for him. In fact, he is the only champion that doesn't have a card. Even his grandson, Benga, doesn't have his own card. Other characters that have been excluded from this generation are the other 6 sages of Team Plasma, En's foster sisters, Anthea and Concordia, as well as the owners of the Lost X-Transceiver in Black and White 2, Yancy and Curtis. Generation 6. Now this one may seem long and there are quite a lot of important characters missing, especially gym leaders and Elite Four members, but with Legends ZA coming out soon, some of those characters may get the attention they deserve. Again, the male protagonist just doesn't get any love with Callum not seeing a card printed. Gym leaders and Elite Four wise, there are quite a few missing: Viola, Ramos, Valerie, Wolfric, Malva, and Wickstrom. Though Valerie does make an appearance on the Sylveon V character art cards. Almost every Team Flare scientist is missing: Alania, Briony, Celosia, and Mabel, with only Xerosic and Lysander seeing their own cards. Professor Sycamore's assistants, Sheena and Dexio, are missing, as well as Luca's future assistant, Emma. But again, with Legends ZA coming out soon, some of these characters may get their own cards in due time. Generation 7 does not have many missing characters. They did a pretty good job giving everyone some time in the spotlight. But as always, the main protagonists are missing their own cards. However, the female protagonist, Selena, is featured on the Zeraora V character art rare. These two aren't even featured on the Friends in Alola card. While this next character is a side character, his design is just so cool I don't understand why they haven't printed a card for him, that character being Ryuki, who is someone that has the possibility to challenge you after you become champion in order to try and take the title. I mean, just look at him. His design is so crazy and unique, how does he not have a card? They gave the clown from Black and White a card, but not this guy. For Generation 8, I've combined together characters from both Sword and Shield as well as Legends Arceus. For Sword and Shield, the only missing characters, as always, is the male protagonists, as it apparently just don't exist, with Victor not having a card printed, but Gloria does. However, unlike other male protagonists, he has been featured on a couple of character art rares, those being Galarian Articuno V and the Shadow Rider Calyrex V cards, as well as being featured on the Friends in Galar. For Legends Arceus, wow, what a surprise, the main protagonists don't have their own cards. Akira does make an appearance on the Pikachu Trainer Gallery card, and Ray is on the Hisuian Arcanine card, and of course they are both featured on the Friends in Hisui card as well. Other missing characters from the TCG include Mai, Melly, Sabi, Leon, Caliber, Polina, Garick, Ginter, and Kogita, though like many other characters, she is featured on the Enamorous V character art card. Plus, I guess you could count Charm, Clover, and Coin, the Misfortune Sisters, as while they do have a card featuring all 3 of them, individual cards do not exist. And last but not least is Generation 9, where again, as always, the main protagonists are missing their own cards, but they are featured on the Friends in Paldea card, and that's it. There is also Snacksworth, but he isn't really an important character. I don't know, actually, I haven't played the DLCs, but like, what is that face? And that is every character in the Pokemon series that has yet to see a card printed for them. There are probably a few that I missed, and there are also trainer classes that might not have cards. Some characters have also made appearances in other generations with different designs, such as Grimsley and Professor Burnett, who changes skin tone. I may have also missed some cards that feature these characters in the art, so please let me know in the comments if I missed anyone. Plus, I didn't even mention the plethora of side games, but I don't think we've seen any characters from the side games in the TCG. The only one I can think of is Bridget from Pokemon Box, and that isn't even a game. It would be cool to see some more side games get their representation in the TCG as well. It does seem the Pokemon Company has been trying to give each and every character some time in the spotlight in more recent sets. Some generations have quite a few missing characters, while other generations, such as Scarlet and Violet, only have the main protagonists missing. With Legends ZA being our next Pokemon game, I imagine a bunch of X and Y characters will be making their appearance in the TCG, and maybe a couple of other random characters from other generations. We could also see some brand new characters get added to the growing pile of missing posters. But for now, these are some of the characters that the Pokemon TCG seem to have forgotten about.